Hey friends, it's Jen, and you're watching Living the Catholic Life, where we talk about all things Catholic and how they pertain to our everyday lives. It's a beautiful day outside today, I must say, in Indianapolis. It's 60 degrees and sunny, and I've been outside getting some sun, as you can tell. And I hear that back home in the Adirondack Park, it's nice as well, and I hope you're enjoying that because we're all going back to winter starting tomorrow. So enjoy it while we can, right? But today I wanted to talk about annulments. And I knew there were some things that I'd left out when I was talking yesterday. And one in particular that really worries people is the status of the legitimacy of children if there is an annulment granted in a marriage. And so I went and did a little digging so I could actually not just tell you what I've learned, what I know, or what I've learned in the past, but to give you some really valid and secure places to go looking to get the answers if you wanted to go looking for them yourself. Um, the first place I came across to was CatholicAnswers.com, and they really are very helpful on a lot of things. And they state it very simply as the bottom line is that an annulment has no effect whatsoever on the legitimacy of children. So we can look at that and break that down a little bit and find why they say that. Um, Probably the best place to look would be in the canon law of the church. Yes, the church has laws, canon laws. There are a body of laws in the church, just like there's a body of laws in our government, and they can be found online. It's not hard to find them. Um, and the canon law 1137 states that children conceived or born of a valid or putative marriage are legitimate. Now, what does putative mean? Putative means commonly believed, pretty much. Like, it's believed to be a marriage until it's proven it's not, basically. It is kind of a gray area, but let me explain it. It'll help a little bit. A putative marriage in the Catholic Church is a marriage that is celebrated by at least one of the party in good faith that the marriage is valid until they learn of its nullity. So as long as one person in the marriage at the time of marriage believed they were going into a lawful, contractual, binding marriage at the time of the marriage, all children from subsequent all subsequent children from the marriage are valid and legitimate. And it does not change with an annulment because one person, at least of the party, went into this sacrament believing it to be valid and true. And then canon law 1139 says it is also possible when children are born illegitimate that they can be, I can't read my own handwriting, rendered. It is also possible when children are born illegitimate, they can be rendered canonically legitimate. That means by subsequent marriage of the parents. Like in my case, my son, when I was pregnant for him, we did not get married till after he was a year old. That did make him legitimate. That made him, you know, um, a child of a valid marriage. And I believed that at that time because I went into that marriage believing that marriage was a valid marriage until I found out otherwise through learning how and why I was married, that it was not valid. And something that you really have to understand as well is that, and it does say this in the church teaching, that the term legitimacy really has no standing in the church, it's not binding. It is a term of legality, really. It pertains to civil law and inheritance and things of that nature. And it's not really something that the Catholic Church spends a lot of time on. it's most children that are born are legitimate. They are, either they are made legitimate by a marriage, or when the marriage took place, somebody was getting married in good faith, even though the other one is not. It's not something to really worry yourself about all that much. As a matter of fact, if you could find a priest that would do it, you could, in fact, have just a spiritual marriage in the church and not a civil one, not file the papers with the court. And you could, in fact, have children of that, and the church would, of course, recognize them as legitimate, but the state would not. And I wish they would do more of that, but the church doesn't, because they don't want to feel like they're, making problems with the state. They like to keep a good relationship with the state, and they don't want to, look like anything fraudulent's going on with it, or, anything dishonest, because a lot of people could use it. If they're widows or widowers and they get married, they don't want to lose the money that they're getting from, the death of their previous spouse. And it can get really gnarly when you start, doing those things. So the church usually just sticks to, if you're going to get married, it's going to be sacramentally binding and legally binding. That's just usually how they roll. But that should, the fact of being afraid that your children are going to be bastardized, I hope that this alleviates any confusion on that. And if it was something to keep you from coming back to the church, don't let that happen. It's not going to happen. And God does not look at your children any less because of something that you've done, if you really want to get down to brass tacks about that. God is not going to punish any child for the sins of the father, and going to treat that child any differently than he would if it was under the most perfect of circumstances. So just to recap, the bottom line is that an annulment does not affect the legitimacy of children whatsoever. Period. Does not affect them. So if you need to come back to the church, and an annulment is something that you need to do to come back to the church, because you can be civilly divorced and you can receive communion. But if you want to be remarried in the church, and you want to have that sacramental rite of marriage and still be able to receive communion, you need an annulment. And if giving your children a bad name was part of the reason why you haven't done that, please let go of it. And if you don't believe, what I've said, or you want more questions, go ahead and look up, I'll put it in the comments, all the canon laws that I've cited here. Go look it up. Go talk to a priest. They'll tell you the same thing. So by all means, please, let's get this fixed. Let's get you on the road to being back into the good graces of the church and being able to receive the sacraments in full, because there's nothing better. All right, guys. Now I hope you go out and enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.